In this video, we're going to talk about the top 5 things that people do wrong when they're trying to buy a house. Number 1 is they don't get pre-approved. Number 2 is they don't know the location inside or out. Number 3, they don't have any idea what the costs are involved in buying a home. Number 4 is they try to time the market. And number 5, they don't use a local expert. So we're going to break this down into these 5 points, and we're going to go over each one in pretty big detail so you know exactly what you should be looking for and not fall into these pitfalls yourself. Okay, everybody, let's talk about mistake number 1 that a lot of home buyers make, especially first-time home buyers, because they're just maybe a little bit more naive to how the whole process goes. So the biggest thing is people not getting pre-approved. They want to go out and look at homes and start looking around, and then they fall in love with something and they always say, I'll get pre-approved when the right house comes along. There's a few problems with that. One is it's really important that you make sure you're looking in the right budget, because what if you think you can afford an $800,000 house, but your lender comes back and tells you you're only qualified up to a $700,000 house? So that means you spent all this time out looking, you fell in love with a home that you thought might be yours, only to find out it's not even a possibility in the first place. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to the pre-approval is this is something you have to go through anyway. It doesn't matter if you do it later or earlier as far as, it's necessity. It's absolutely necessary. There's no cost to it. There's no obligation to it. There's no risk in doing so. So you might as well do it up front. See what loan programs are available for you. There's certain, especially first-time homebuyer programs and things like that you might be able to take advantage of. And then what if a surprise comes up? The lenders can give you ideas of how to fix whatever problem that may be, whether it be credit score or something along those lines. And the great thing about being pre-approved up front is once you find a home, then we can write an offer right away because I already have a pre-approval letter for you. We don't have to go through the process of waiting. Is if you wait to get pre-approved and you find that perfect home and then you have to go through the pre-approval process, well, what if that takes a day or two and then boom, somebody else comes in and takes that home away from you? You want to be able to write an offer immediately once you find the home that you love. So once you've decided that you want to start looking for a home, contact me and let's get this whole process started. And the first place I'm going to point you to is to one of the lenders that I work with, people that I've developed relationships with, that I trust, that I know are going to treat my clients well, get them the best possible deal, and actually get them to the finish line. Okay, point number 2 that I want to talk about is not knowing the location that they're buying in inside and out. And there's a lot to look at here. A lot of people come up to a property, has great curb appeal, they fall in love with the land and the home, and they think that's it. And that is a big part of it, for sure. However, you have to keep in mind all the other things, especially where are you at? So if you're a commuter, how long is it going to take to work? Do you really want to cross that bridge every single day? Do you want to hop on a ferry every single day? If you want to get to the airport from time to time, do you want to be within a half-hour drive or is an hour and a half okay? What school district are you in? If you're not in the right school district, can you even apply to try to get your kids into a different school district? Or is private school such an option? And then, of course, there's people that like going to the big city. If you go to the theater in Seattle or you go to some of the ball games or whatever. All of these things are involved in your lifestyle. So it's not only the home itself that you're buying, it's where it's at to make sure it fits with your lifestyle, your work activities, your pleasurable activities, all of those things. Make sure you're in the right spot. So in closing on this particular point, there's one thing about loving the house and that's important. And there's another thing about loving the area and that's important too. So we got to marry those 2 things together and make sure that you are actually buying the right place, the right home in the right location. Mistake number 3 that home buyers often fall into just because they're not educated on the process is the cost of what it takes to buy a home, because it's not just the purchase price. There's many, many more things to think about. Okay, so first of all, let's start with the loan. If you are getting a loan to purchase your home, guess what? The loan is not free. Not only is there interest on the actual amount that you're borrowing, so your payments are higher because you're paying on the interest, but you have a thing called closing costs. So there is some upfront costs that you will have to pay to get your loan started. And this pays all of their fees and processes, and the loan officers commission of it and things like that. But it could be several thousands of dollars. There's ways to work that into the purchase price, so we have the seller help cover some of that, but it's still all negotiated in, and at first anyway, unless we work that in, it's the buyer's responsibility to cover their own closing costs. And then of course there's the cost of the title and escrow fees, which are kind of minimal, but they're still, $1,500, $2,000 or so, depending on the property. So above and beyond your down payment and above and beyond the payments that you're going to be making monthly, you may have $10, $15, maybe even up to $20,000 worth of closing costs that you have to do at closing just to get into the house. So another thing that you got to keep in mind is some of the costs that you do for your due diligence on the house that you're buying. A home inspection. I highly, highly recommend that you get a home inspection before purchasing a house. Make sure that you're getting not a lemon, that you're getting something that's ready to go. So another thing that we have to do whenever you're buying a home in the very beginning stages of getting under contract, when we find a home and we get a mutually signed around deal going, is you have to turn in earnest money to the escrow company. Now, earnest money is not additional money. It's part of your down payment or part of those closing costs that we talked about earlier, but it is money due within the first few days. And then of course, when you have to finish paying off the down payment and stuff at closing, that amount is deducted from the overall amount. But you have to be prepared. Earnest money can be $10,000, can be $50,000. It's totally negotiable depending on the price point of the house and what kind of offer we're making and things like that. Here's a big one. And this is the cost for real estate agents. And everybody heard all the hoopla about 18 months ago with this big lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and costs for real estate agent services and things like that. So let me give you the lowdown on that. What has changed with us is now we have to have a buyer-broker agreement. So if we render real estate services to a buyer, we have to have you guys sign an agreement saying that you are working with us. And in that agreement, we have a compensation package, if you will, where we put in a percent of what our commission would be based on your purchase price. Traditionally, the sellers pay all real estate costs. And here in this area, 99% of the time, that is still the case. So as a buyer, in all likelihood, you're not gonna have any out-of-pocket expenses for your real estate agent. If you go to sell, you definitely will then. So just be aware, make sure you have this conversation with your agent, understand the language on your buyer-broker agreement as to what you may be responsible for, but know that in most cases, the seller's gonna pay those costs. Number 4 on my list of mistakes homebuyers make is trying to time the market. Oh my gosh, this is a big subject. So it depends on what kind of time period we're in. So let me give you a couple examples of this. 3 or 4 years ago, when we were in COVID and home prices started rising pretty rapidly, I had many clients say, we're in a bubble, we're not gonna buy right now, the market's gonna crash, we'll look at it next year. Well, guess what? Lo and behold, the next year, I'd call those people, I'm like, hey, that house that we were looking at a year ago, it's now worth over $100,000 more. So they were trying to time the market thinking that the market was gonna crash, actually just kept going up and up and up. Real estate, if you look at it over history, it always goes up. We've had those little dips for sure. The biggest housing crash that we had in, at least in my adult life was the 2008 crash. That's probably not gonna happen again. So today's market is very different than the rapid growth of the market that we had 3 or 4 years ago. Interest rates were down in the toilet. It was virtually free money. Prices were going up. Well, now they've kind of leveled off. And this is where we expect to be. Interest rates aren't gonna really change much over the next couple years, maybe a quarter point here or there. But because interest rates aren't changing much, that's not going to affect the value of the market anymore. So with interest rates being pretty stable and being where they are and not much fluctuation over the next couple years, and the projections, and these are projections. I mean, could World War III happen? Yes, but in all likelihood, these projections usually hold course, and the projections are the market's just going to increase 3% or so over the next couple years. So I tell all my clients, don't try to time the market, time it around your life. Do it when it's best for you. So it's always a good time to buy, almost always, if you bought the day before the housing crash of 2008, well, that sucks and I'm sorry, but that's like a once in a lifetime event. Don't try to time the market, time it around your life. The fifth and final mistake that we're gonna talk about in this video is not using a local expert to help you buy the house. Now, if you're selling a house, having a local agent isn't as important. I've sold houses outside of my area because I can do a market analysis and find value, and how I market my properties is the same whether it be in Seattle or Olympia or Tacoma or here in Gig Harbor. That doesn't matter. That's not nearly as important. But buying, if you're buying a house, you want a local expert. You want somebody that knows that neighborhood and that area inside and out. You know, you want to know how the schools are there. You want to know what the neighborhood is like, what the vibe of it is like. You want to know if the shooting range down the street, if you can hear gunshots every Saturday morning because they're doing target practice. You want somebody that knows everything about the neighborhood and why sometimes just one block over makes a big difference. So having a local expert makes this process just so much more credible. If somebody can tell you about their experiences because they live here, they have raised their kids here, they have been involved in the community, they have gone to the different events that the community offers, their kids experience the school system and everything like that. So they can draw from their firsthand knowledge of living in this community and apply it to whatever situation you might be in and how it's going to affect your life. So let's go over how it looks if you don't use a local expert. Let's say you have a family friend or a distant cousin or something like that that's an agent up in Bellingham and you want to purchase down here in Gig Harbor and you want them to help you. Well, what kind of guide are they really going to be in the Gig Harbor market? Yes, they can put contracts together and they can advise you on negotiating, things like that, but they don't know this area. They don't know that, hey, I'm buying a house here, but every Tuesday afternoon in the summer is concert in the park and your street is going to be lined with cars and you can barely even get into your driveway. How would they know that? How would they know what kind of local events go on, or that we have the Maritime Festival here and the community events that you can get involved in and the firsthand knowledge? Use a local expert that knows this area like the back of their hand, that has firsthand experience, and you can get the positives and the negatives from them and help point you in the right direction. When you use a local expert to help you buy a home, realize, especially my team, you're a client forever. We stay in touch with you all the time and we, reach out to you, check in on you, invite you to events that we do. And this creates an opportunity. We always want to be your go-to resource for anything that you may need. I get clients all the time that are calling me like, hey, I've got a roofing issue. Who should I call? I want to do a landscape project. Who should I call? I've got a laundry list of everybody that I have developed relationships with, that I trust, that I know do a great job for my clients, and they're here. I wouldn't have that if I wasn't here. So it's really important to use somebody here, and please, whenever you close on a home and there's anything that you want to do to it, want to run it by me, please do, and I'll get you connected with the best people around who are going to take really good care of you. So don't make the mistake of using somebody that is not a local expert. Use somebody that you trust, that knows the area and will point you in the right direction. Okay, everybody, that was it. This was the video on the top 5 mistakes that home buyers make when they're trying to purchase a home. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. You can hit that little bell over there, subscribe to this channel to watch all the videos that we put out. We try to put out a couple each month. If you have any comments or anything, please put it in the comment section down below. All my information is going to pop up right here, so give me a call, send me an email, whatever it is you need. We would love to be your local resource here so you don't make those mistakes as well.